Hello, and welcome to Rocket Fuel, your daily update of everything that's happening in the Rocket Pool and now Ethereum communities. My name is Wack, today is April 29th, and today's big news is 1 million validators live on Ethereum. We'll also be going to covering some big changes that might be coming because of EIP 7251, which is the max effective balance EIP. Also, there's some news about Houston launching on the Holesky testnet. So let's get started.
10, 9, ignition sequence start, 6.
So before we get started, actually, let me give a warm welcome to all Daily Gwei viewers who have recently subscribed to Rocket Fuel and want to watch along to get Ethereum news. As I've said on Twitter and elsewhere, I'm going to be putting more Ethereum news into the show. For those of you who don't know, Rocket Fuel is actually a show that's about Rocket Pool, the liquid staking protocol, and all the things that happen around that. So that's including like DeFi integrations, updates on the protocol, just interesting things that are happening in the community. It's a daily show. It goes out 5 times a week, and I do cover news of other liquid staking and liquid restaking protocols. I also cover news of Ethereum, especially when it's pertinent to Rocket Pool or if it's big news. So I'll just be covering more of those Ethereum related news than I normally do, just to kind of tie you guys over until Anthony is back next month. So I'll tell you a little bit about how the show is set up. In the beginning of each episode, I will be talking about Rocket Pool and Rocket Pool news. After that, I will talk about staking, the staking environment and restaking environment. Then I will talk about Ethereum news. Everything will be timestamped, so you can just skip to the section that you're interested in. And then finally, I just wrap it up with some other stuff that's either only interesting to me or like 5 other people. So yeah, with all that said, let's actually get started with today's news. So the first thing we're going to talk about today is this new milestone that has been hit on Ethereum on mainnet, and that is we have over 1,000 active validators who are actually out there and staking right now. I really like that the banner here on Beacon Chain website is Rocket Pool node operation banner, which is really nice. When we first got that banner, I tried to get it on the show and I couldn't. It just didn't, like, after I refreshed it like 100 times, but it's there now. But anyway, this is now showing that we are up to over 1 million active validators and everything is looking pretty good. Of course, there was discussion about this on the Rocket Pool Discord, and here Ken was the first person to share the screenshot saying that we now have 1 million validators, and at that time the active validators was 1,000,004 validators. Of course, the churn limits were locked with the Denkun upgrade, so online per epoch you only get 8 validators coming online, and I think very soon we'll be getting 14 validators leaving per epoch as we, I think, hit 1,050,000 validators, somewhere around there. So currently we have 14,387 pending validators to come online. But yeah, we actually officially have 1,000 active validators now. So just as those 1 million validators went online, the Rocket Pool got a couple of big blocks going into the smoothing pool. So this one was worth 1.7 ETH, and then this whale here got another block. The next one, I think, the next slot over, for 6 blocks later for 1.6 ETH. So there are a couple of nice blocks coming in around that time. I think that's just coincidence though. But yeah, 1 million validators on Ethereum is really, really cool news. Of course, one of the reasons why the Holesky testnet was set up the way it was with 1.5 million validators was just to like kind of stress test the amount of validators that Ethereum can run properly with. It seems like Holesky is running fine with 1.5 million validators. I think there might even be more than that now. But on Ethereum, of course, in the next hard fork, Petra, we will be introducing a new EIP that will change the validators so you can increase your max effective balance to 2048, and with that we'll be able to reduce the number of validators down significantly, maybe by half, maybe even by 75%, depending on how people consolidate their stake. And of course the amount of ETH that will still be staked will be the same, It's just it'll be in fewer validators. So that'll make it easier for validators to communicate with each other and for attestations and all of that good stuff, which is really cool. Okay, talking about EIP 7251. Here there's this thread on GitHub about the consensus specs of what it will look like, and we have Tapline here commenting and a whole bunch of other people that you might know. But there's really interesting data that kind of came up with this about the slashing and how that's going to work with MaxEB, because people didn't know what the slashing might look like. And this information was only brought to my attention a couple of days ago by Nixo. I'd actually missed it. But what happened is Nixo here, you can go and read like all the comments yourself on the GitHub, but Nixo here shared some information saying that MaxEB reduces slashing. If a single validator gets slashed, and if they've got 32 ETH, then it'll go down to 0.0078 ETH instead of the current 1 ETH that it is. And then if you have 2048 ETH staked on one validator, then that's 0.05 ETH for that. So this is actually like a landmark change for Rocket Pool, because so much of what we do with the collateral that we require for ETH is based on, the slashing penalty that we have at the moment. And what happens is, with a regular user getting slashed now, they lose 1 ETH of their 32 ETH. So this will be a 128th amount of that. So it's definitely changing the parameters significantly. So with Saturn, when we change the bonding curve, potentially what will happen is we'll allow validators with 1.5 ETH, and part of that is because of protecting against that slashing of 1 ETH. However, if the slashing penalty goes down to 0.0078, Jasper's question here was the interesting one. He says, how does this change the bonding curves? Well, it really does change the bonding curves massively. But he also tags Joshua saying, calling all brains, and basically wanting then Samus as well, non-fungible Yokum and Ishka as well, are trying to get information about what this might mean for Rocket Pool going forward. And here, later, the question kind of came up. And he says, where does that put us with the proposed level of our ETH risk? And Patches says, will this allow 0.5 ETH bonds? And Val says, if we change one of the variables by 128x, I'm going to need to think things through again. Intuition is we don't get to move too much because it'd make MEV theft too strong, but that could be mitigated by paying ahead for MEV sort of thing, e.g. negative commission. I'd probably suggest starting with the same plan and just realizing we've got a good bit of room and on one end with work anyhow. And then Ishka says negative commission becomes a lot more viable with the type of bond that slashing change would allow. And Valdov says, yeah, the only question I get to is, does this just make us Lido? And Ishka says the short answer is yes. So Valdov says, you could justify 0.1 ETH bonds. He says, I can run a lot of validators and I'm small AF. Now this is where things get really interesting. Lulu says Thomas can truly become the beacon chain. And the way it works basically is, here Val says you need less than 3,000 node operator ETH to collateralize the same amount of stake that Lido has, which is, the basically 30% of the stake. So it would be pretty crazy. So Nosho says Lido limits per operator, and because all of them could run 100% of their validators, we can't do that without whitelisting operators. So Val says, so anyways, as usual, we've learned that there's no possible consequences whatsoever to changing the parameter 2 orders of magnitude for funsies. So basically the idea what Val is saying here is, if you were to tweak the numbers to kind of make it more efficient, it would just make us impossibly efficient, so much so that, I think just Thomas alone would be able to stake all 80% of all current ETH that is staked on the beacon chain because of those collateral amounts. So I don't think they're going to be changing the curves just because that's just crazy. And then it just becomes a new reason to Sybil attack and all of that bad stuff. So yeah, I during the conversation a bit later, I said, how much would we change it? And Val says the premise is broken, basically, we can't do it like that. And yeah, Nosho says our mechanism for having a diverse set of operators despite being permissionless is capital requirement. Even as that's not perfect, if we go to basically no capital requirement, it breaks. So I said, I get what you mean now. Is the node set guys worry on steroids? So even they were saying that, having 1.5 ETH a requirement of collateral is already too open. And then Val says that Thomas's biggest node could collateralize like 80% of the current total of ETH stake. So yeah, that would not be good. So this is definitely a discussion and a conversation that's going to be coming up a lot over the next few weeks and months. And I think it's one of those things that we're really going to have to pay a lot of attention to and see how it's going to impact Rocket Pool. So I will definitely let you all know as those discussions go on. Okay, next we got an update from Langers here about Holesky on testnet. So he says, hey everyone, we've deployed the Houston release to the Holesky testnet. Houston is live on the testnet for testing, exploring, breaking. To participate, upgrade your testnet smart node to 1.13.0. The testnet website, testnet.rocketpool.net, has been updated with Houston features. For information on what's new in Houston, please check out the docs. And there's a link what's new. Please provide any feedback in the following thread. Then there's a thread. And when you provide feedback, please let us know which version of the smart node you're using, version 1 or version 2 beta. So the version 2 beta is now also out, which is really exciting as well. The PDAO governance system is disabled initially until there's enough vote power to take control. The first thing you should do is initialize your voting power using this command. And there's a command there. And then governance delegates going forward have to be registered nodes. This is a technical requirement. If you are a delegate, please throw your testnet node address in the feedback thread. The testers can delegate their vote to you. When governance proposals are raised, there are 2 voting periods. The first is for voters and delegators to vote on the proposal. The second is for delegatees to override their delegates' votes. This will be explained in our Medium article, and we will work with the community to test the process. Once the governance system is enabled, management committee members can test recurring payments. Safe doesn't have an official website for multi-sigs on Holesky, but Profile hosts one here. And then there's a link for those of you interested in the audit reports. We're just working with our auditors to make them public. They will be available soon. If you have any questions, ask them feedback thread, and we'll be happy to answer. So as soon as the audit reports are available, I will be covering those on the show, and I will let you know all the things that were found in there. But yeah, go ahead, break things on Holesky. This is from this morning, earlier today. So let's see if there's been any feedback already. Actually, that's a good thing to check. So get involved. What can we do? So Ivan here already had a couple of pieces of feedback, and yeah, there you go. So Nick is already asking for information there. So that's a little bit limited at the moment, but I think that there'll be, as more people start testing things, that will get filled more, which is pretty exciting. Okay, next we have news of a new vote that is live on the Rocket Pool snapshot page. So this is RPIP 41 committee stipends. So I was teasing that this was going to be going live soon. It's live now, so let's have a look at what it includes. This is RPIP 41 establishes stipends for members of the PDAO committees. The global hourly stipend rate is decided by the PDAO and applies to all committees. The initial stipend rate is set to $30 an hour. Committees receive a stipend total of members times by expected hours times global rate. So committees may split their stipend total amongst their members in any manner they choose. Stipend payouts are managed by the Grants Management Committee and paid from the GMC's budget. Total cost of initial committee stipend is $7,020 USD per month. RPIP 41 does not fund committee members retroactively. And then it says outcome if the vote is passed. RPIP 41 will be ratified by the PDAO, empowering the GMC to pay stipends to members of the PDAO committees. At the time of this vote, only PDAO committees within Rocket Pool are the Grants Management Committee and the Incentive Management Committee. The rationale says committee members fill important roles within the Rocket Pool DAO. On a moral level, they deserve to be rewarded for their time and value they are providing to the DAO. On a more practical level, previous committee elections have struggled to find sufficient nominees to both offer meaningful choice to the PDAO and provide sufficient number of substitute numbers if a committee member is no longer able to volunteer their time. A stipend may help to increase the attractiveness of the membership roles and will be rewarded reward committee members for the value they provide to the Rocket Pool DAO. So then there's a whole bunch of docs about this and discussions that have been taking place for 2 years, nearly since October 2022, over a year and a half. So this vote is looking like it's almost going to pass. We have 5,000 votes in favor of it, with 1,000 votes abstaining and 69 votes against. And that gives us 6,200 votes out of 7,200 votes, which is the quorum. So it's looking pretty good. Val here voted for this. He's saying that strives for a reasonable balance between paid position and fully volunteer, hopefully expands a set of folks up for contributing. I said this might be a conflict of interest since I'm on the GMC, but I think this is much needed to get more people involved. And then Joe voted for this as well. And then I think this is a big node operator here abstained. Ramana voted for this, and Ken abstained, saying that he's on the GMC. So yeah, it looks like this is going to pass in the next couple of days, and I will start getting a stipend, which is nice. Like I said, it's like $30 an hour. There's 9 committee members on the GMC. Expected hours are set to 10 hours a month, which I think is fair. Like maybe on some months we do a little bit more work than that, but that's okay. And then yeah, it's $300 a month basically. So it's like Val said, it's just kind of in that sweet spot between like paying people but also just being volunteers. It's definitely on the side of volunteering, really. So that's really cool. Go and vote on that if you haven't already. Okay, next we have news of grants round 11, and that's for grants, bounties, and retrospective awards. And here we have the results. So these were the results from a couple of days ago. So it says the GMC has concluded discussions and scoring for round 11. And then let's have a look at the subcommittees. That's the same as always. The awarded amounts, they were calculated at $21 per RPL. And then the applications breakdown, here we had 13 total applications, 5 grants, 5 bounties, and 3 retros, and 1 was transferred from the last round. The total amounts of grants requested was $137,000. Total amount of bounties requested was $349,000. Total amount of retroactive grants requested was $16,000. The total amount was $502,000, but the GMC accepted, the funds that came in this round were $114,000. Let's have a look at some of the awards. So here, Patches was approved. So this is a partnership with the Rocket Pool team, and that's a max rate of $104,000, but it likely will be less than that. Lee got some money for support work. Josh got money for succession planning. Gov Alpha got some money for support template. And then we had Baka got a retro for the treasury work. And Schifrin got approved for the summit program, which is really cool. I'm really excited about that. And D2 got some money for Reddit contributions. There were 2 rewards that were then deferred, which was 2 Gov Alpha rewards, and then a bunch of them were declined. So a Gov Alpha one was declined. We also declined the SSV integration, dev work by Secundi, research by Ramana, and marketing by Dodao. So there was a detailed information here about it, and you can go and read that information with all the different reasoning the GMC gave for their decisions. I think it was a really good round with some really great contributions from the members. All the GMC members participated and submitted the information on time, and there were no amendments, and no members opted to reject the vote this time as well. So thank you, Schiff, for putting all that together. But yeah, it was a really successful grants round. And of course, as always, the next grants round is already open. That's number 12, and that will that has the deadline of May 7th. So it's going to be closing in just over a week. So make sure that you check that out. Okay, next we're going to go back to the Rocket Pool Discord, and now we're going to be talking about the next steps of Val and Samus's and other people's tokenomics plans. And these are the ones that we're setting up for Saturn 1 and Saturn 2, and it includes like a complete rework of Rocket Pool's tokenomics. So here Samus starts by saying here's what he thinks are the rough order of the upcoming steps. This is number 1, the first draft of full support, full proposal and all specs, which should be this weekend. And he says get more nerd eyes to review the first full proposal draft, work on the top level explanations of full proposal, big final community feedback push on the forum with the full proposal, update full proposal based on community feedback if needed, forum temp check on full proposal, snapshot vote on full proposal, including the clause that surplus revenue will be decided after conclusion of legal counsel and before Saturn 1, snapshot vote on surplus revenue, and update proposal to incorporate surplus revenue vote result. Seems reasonable, and Val says that looks good to me. Yeah, let's have a look at the updated RPIP then. So this was updated last week, and then it's got like the information about all the different RPIPs that are going in. This is RPIP 49, which is kind of the summary RPIP of all the different tokenomics changes. Then we have RPIP 42, 43, 44, 45, and 50, and also 46 and 47. So all the bunch of different RPIPs here, and there's some community feedback and discussions that we still need, whether we're going to be burning RPL or buying and providing liquidity. And Val says it's probably worth it to do some modeling to gain understanding, and we'll need a snapshot to decide on which path to take, and the transaction deposits for greater queue efficiency. See the second bullet here as well. The deployment plan is looking like this at the moment. So for Saturn 1, and the earliest Saturn 1 I think we'll get here would be in basically Q1 25, I think. Maybe somewhere around there. So that's just my estimate, of course. So what we're looking for is mega pools, forced delegate upgrades, bond curves, framework, the variable commission thing that's called UARS now, and RPL value capture. So this will allow ETH-only participants, allow node operators to move to mega pools for greater efficiency, allow 4 ETH validators within mega pools for greater efficiency. The UARS, that's the Universal Adjustable Revenue Split, that's what it is, except for voter share targeting and RPL value capture. So that's either going to be burn, liquidity providing, or higher voter share. Voter share could also be an interim option until Saturn 2. And then we have Saturn 2, and here we have bond curves, which is low bond, forced exits, and then more changes to the UARS and value capture as well. So bond curves will let you have 1.5 ETH validators, and then more changes to the UARS, and then the value capture update if voter share was used as an interim option, and then changing that maybe to burn or provide liquidity with the ETH, And some of the other RPIPs will have specifications that take effect with Saturn 2 and are designed to be spec'd from Saturn 1, and these specifications should take effect when Saturn 2 is released and 4 months have passed in Saturn 1, or when Saturn 2 is released and the PDAO vote to have a specification take effect. And then there's some more topics that can be addressed after the main votes, which is forced exits, and topics not being addressed in this rework as well. So you can go and look at all those different topics and get ideas of what's going on there. And then here is where Val kind of updated, talked about his RPIP that we just looked through and how it's changed, and what kind of stuff, and then the conversation that kind of came up there as well. So definitely go and give those topics a read if you are interested in seeing where the conversation stands right now. But yeah, it's really exciting that we're making progress, and I think really good things are going to come out of this. So excited to see how it all goes. Okay, next there was some sad news of my divorce in my marriage with Ramana. So Ramana and I had a marriage where he provided the ETH and I provided the RPL, and we got a divorce recently. And here there's an event output on the Rocket Watch showing that we withdrew 7,000 RPL from the RPL 2K validator. So that has gone there from there now. So it's kind of bittersweet. We'd been married for I think nearly a year now, so it was definitely a pretty cool marriage. But I think both of us want different things going forward. So we would call it a day. But Ramana was a great spouse, and if anyone else is looking to get married to Ramana, I'm sure he's always happy to entertain marriages. So definitely reach out to him about that. Okay, last week we talked a little bit about reward tree specs version 9 and version 10. I'm not going to go over again what it includes, But one of the things that happened was Patches sent the information to a sentiment poll before, the RPIP gets put onto a snapshot vote. And here 100% of people support this change and 0% of people do not support this change. So it looks like this will be going to vote soon. So that's really exciting. Okay, next we have some news of client updates here, and this one is from Nimbus, and we have version 24.4.0, and it says note Nimbus is a low urgency release with stability and performance improvements, and it also removes built-in Praetor and Gurley chain support, and people are encouraged to migrate to Holesky or Sepolia. So there are a couple of little improvements here. Like I said, it's low urgency, so update your convenience, and sometimes within the next few weeks, basically, if you want. And then with that, we actually had an issue with a Nimbus version. So here, Halulo and Lee were talking about resyncing their Nethermind, and they were getting some issues with the output on Grafana. And it seems like the way to fix it was just delete this line from the query. Apparently they use the same name as Bisu now, and then there's some code there. I'm not sure exactly how to do that, but if you have questions about your outputs on the Grafana for your execution client peers for Nethermind, then definitely reach out to Lee or Halulo here to get that fixed. So the next news we have here is from Myso Finance. And the reason why we're covering this is because their airdrop is live, and they're saying that if you check you're eligible, and there's a link there for you to check if you are eligible or not. And then there's news about their eligibility, distribution, and tokenomics. And the reason why I'm covering this in the Rocket Pool section of the video is because so many people in the Rocket Pool community have used Myso Finance, and Etienne from Myso Finance reached out to me and asked if I could talk about this airdrop information of theirs. So this is a little bit of alpha that we got here. So basically, people who provided Myso Finance has this thing called covered calls. You can use different tokens to do that, and if you held at least $50,000 of any of the eligible tokens at the snapshot date, then you will be eligible for an airdrop. And one of the tokens that I had there was Rocket Pool's RPL, and 71 members of the Rocket Pool community who provided RPL at that time are now eligible for the Myso Finance airdrop. So if you are one of those people, then definitely check it out, because I think it works out to be like 90% APY on that, I think. So that's actually pretty nice rewards for your work, and it has some information about like what you get and what you don't get and stuff. So I don't fully understand how the airdrop works, so you'll have to dig into their information a little bit more closely. But I know that people in the Rocket Pool community are eligible for that. So if you are eligible, then definitely go check that out. Okay, moving back to the Discord now, and here we have news of a new project, Heroglyph. And this is a project that is trying to bring a certain kind of meme coin to Ethereum, but also making it eligible for solo stakers. They're trying to make it eligible for solo stakers. So the way it works is when you stake and you make a proposal, on that proposal there is some graffiti that you can write. Basically what these guys want to do is, if you put a very specific graffiti in your proposal text, that address will become eligible for an airdrop of a certain meme coin. So it's like proof of solo staking, I guess, because they're trying to do it so it's solo stakers only. And then Ken, basically, who is large node operator with Rocket Pool and also a rocket scientist, he tried to figure out how he could get it to work with Rocket Pool. He says, I'm sharing my field notes on the Heroglyph project. Obviously not financial advice, do your own research, etc. He said, but I had a lot of fun playing with this. Spoiler alert, this journal does have a lot of the discoveries made so far. So if you want to explore and uncover the clues to this new project on your own, don't look inside. The project seems interesting and appears to be quite successful so far. Many of my fellow NFT degens in the Discord don't have beginning concepts of what Ethereum validator is and the responsibility that they entail, but the FOMO and the gameplay are so off the charts in their Discord. I wouldn't be surprised if 1,000 new solo node operators are born out of this project. If it creates just 100 new solo stakers and gets people into decentralizing the chain, I'm all for it. It's been a pretty high quality adventure so far. He says, feel free to suggest edits and clues in the notebook. And then there's his diary that you can do. Basically, they're trying to figure out ways of getting rocket pool node operator graffiti eligible for this as well. I'm going to try to dig up some more information about where we stand with that, and when I find out, I'll definitely let you know. But it would be really cool if rocket poolers could get involved in this as well. They're trying to do it so it's just like, home stakers, solo stakers can do it, people who are staking 32 ETH. And they've got a couple of things they want to do to kind of figure out if those people are solo stakers, like, the address is just the EUA, it's just like a regular address and not a safe, for example, and a couple of other things as well. But I think it's all quite gameable. But hey, if they get some new node operators, like Ken says, that would be a huge success. Okay, Albert here shared details of a project called Gogo Pool. So Gogo Pool sounds quite interesting because a lot of their terminology is similar to what we talk about. This is Gogo Pool's core mechanics revolve around the concept of a mini pool. This was originally coined by Rocket Pool, which Gogo Pool is based on. The Gogo Pool mini pool represents a validator that was funded via Avax contributions from liquid stakers using the deposit pool, and Avax contributed from the node operators during their registration with Gogo Pool. So basically, it's Avalanche, which is an alt layer 1, and Gogo Pool there have forked Rocket Pool protocol onto Avax, and they're trying to run it. What's really interesting is that they're using like the old tokenomics instead of like the new suggested tokenomics. So it's going to be interesting to see how that gets done. But what ended up happening was there were some really funny things that people were talking about in the Rocket Pool Discord. Like Albert was saying, this is the first time I'm hearing of them. I guess they're launching. Someone forking Rocket Pool to a new chain isn't a bad thing. Just hadn't heard of them. And this says, have you never heard of Peteris? And this says, did Peteris make this? And they've been working. Have they not been in here since April last year? They haven't concluded it works for a few years if they get enough hype. So basically, last year is when the Rocket Pool community realized that the old tokenomics are flawed in a sense, and over the course of the last year, that understanding has spread. So they was joking that they might get a couple of years of work if they get hype, but if they have marketing, they might get even more. And that, of course, is indication that the Rocket Pool protocol didn't have the best marketing. But Halilu said when Gogo Fuel, so and the weekly Gogo, and those of course are in my show and Pat's shows. So Gogo Fuel's definitely coming any day now. So yeah, that there was some funny stuff that was going on with that. So you can check it out. People joking about their ODAO and other things as well. So definitely check that out. There's some really funny comments over there. Okay, next we've got news of Evan here. Evan had a bet last year that I covered on Rocket Fuel right after Atlas, and he made a bet to anyone who would take it. The ratio at the time was 0.0175. And he said basically that in 1 year's time, the RPL ratio against ETH is going to be less than what it was at that point. And Hekmet here had a bet for $1,000 that the ratio was going to be higher, while Evan won the bet. And Hekmet was great enough to not only pay the $1,000, but he also threw in an additional $1,000 to 10 Gitcoin projects. So that was for Remiroy, L2B, Lighthouse Consensus Client, DeFi Llama, Beacon Chain, ETH Limo, and Ethereum Attestation Service, CoinCashew Staking Guides, ETH Staker, and Open Zeppelin. So Hekmet did a really cool job there, and yeah, congrats. Well, sorry, not congrats. Congrats on paying it out the way you did, but sorry that you lost the bet. I think we were all cheering for Hekmet to win that bet, but sadly it wasn't meant to be. Okay, that was the last of the Rocket Pool news. Next, we have some staking news here. And so yeah, we get news here of the other staking services. So Jasper was kind of poking around with different pieces of information, and he found that Frax's ETH supply staked has gone from 310,000 down to 204,000. That's a loss of 33% of the TVL. They found some charts here, and he says that the curve pool, lower APR, and holding, and then showing like how much trade RE has done, and over $2 billion in volume on Uniswap. And we have the 4th and 6th most active LST pools in the last 30 days. It's actually really exciting. So that was all really good stuff. And with Frax, what they're doing is they're withholding 100% of their ETH that they're getting deposited. So their stake just isn't growing, and they're like using it to provide liquidity and stuff, try to get rewards for their depositors. But that was like a known issue that they've had for a long time. And then Jasper kind of like dug into some more details here. And he says Status ETHX peaked at 126,000 ETH. Now it's down to 122,000 ETH. They've actually held their supply really well. And this is really surprising, but kind of unsurprising at the same time. So OS ETH, this is the one from Stakewise. They are stuck at 32,000 ETH staked, which is actually like really bad. Like they have been a huge flop. And I think this is one of the reasons why Diva has kind of pivoted away from being a pure LST to being a lot more than that, and like trying to do the restaking thing on top of it. So then there was a whole bunch of discussion basically about how other protocols have been holding up. Of course, Rocket Pool, with node operator ETH, we are at post-Atlas lows right now, but we have held onto our stake better than Lido and Frax and a whole bunch of other LST competitors. So if stake does come back to LSTs instead of LRTs, which we're hoping will happen soon, then that will hopefully be good for Rocket Pool. Okay, so speaking of Diva and Nektar, here we get this update from Nektar saying introducing Nektar drops and pollination, our commitment to community and loyalty. So here they are talking about a new program that is basically going to give Diva early staking contributors Nektar points instead of just Diva tokens. And they're talking about they're going to do retroactive drops. So they're going to give points to early supporters, recognizing interactions from September 23 to April 24. And then there's FAQs for details on eligibility. And then they've got more details of how it's going to be calculating all this different stuff. So it looks like the Diva guys are like fully transitioning towards being a Nektar protocol, and how they are going to kind of move away from like the Diva tokens, it looks like, to Nektar points and eventually a Nektar token. They're saying that there will still be a Diva token, but I think the use of it going forward is going to be more limited than what's happening here. So for Nektar tokens, they're going to give retroactive points to people who deposited in the Enzyme Early Staker vaults, participants in the Sommelier Turbo Div ETH vault, based ETH holders and based ETH LPs on Aerodrome and Beefy, Diva POAP holders, and operations in Diva testnets. So their pollination Epoch 1 starts on May 1st. Epoch 1 then will give you Diva airdrops through deposits and participation in new initiatives, etc. And then after that, there'll be referral programs as well and future seasons, basically. But it looks like they are working towards getting all that stuff done. And if you are interested in that, then check out what Nektar, like formerly known as Diva, are up to. Okay, next we have this new dashboard from Staking Rewards about all the different AVSs that are available on EigenLayer. So these are for people who have delegated their stake to EigenLayer or their LSTs or LRTs, and then you can pick the AVSs that you'd like to delegate your tokens to. So here they're saying how many restakers these different AVSs have, and EigenDA is the biggest one here. They have 42,730 restakers, and then eOracle, Witness Chain, these are some of the big ones as well. And you can check out how all of this is going on this website now from Staking Rewards. So that might be a nice dashboard for you to check out. Okay, next we are going to be talking about some Ethereum news. And with Ethereum here, we have news of a whole bunch of regulatory news coming out of the SEC. And first of this is about Wells notices that were sent to Uniswap, of course, but also one to Consensus. And Consensus are one of the biggest organizations in Ethereum. It's run by Joe Lubin, who's a co-founder of Ethereum. And what's happening, it looks like, is that the SEC is coming after them for their MetaMask wallet and some of the features like swapping and staking that are available within that, and make the SEC basically alleging that they are becoming a brokers and need to be registered as such. So what consensus in retaliation is to sue the SEC to try to get some clarity on where ETH stands in, as an entity, as a token, as an entity, Ethereum as an entity, and all of that. So there's some really interesting stuff here for you to have a look at. So yeah, it's really interesting because the ODAO consensus, of course, around the Rocket Pool ODAO. So when we see that the Rocket Pool ODAO member sues the SEC, it's a pretty big deal. And not only that, but it seems like they actually mentioned Rocket Pool in their documents. So Non-Fungible Yokum here shared a screenshot saying, "Look, Ma, we're on TV." And then MetaMask staking, which is of course one of the aspects of the consensus that SEC is kind of coming after. It says MetaMask staking is an application that allows users to communicate with certain third-party protocols called Lido and Rocket Pool, each of which offers liquid staking service for validated transactions on the Ethereum blockchain. Lido and Rocket Pool allow users to deposit ETH into a pool, and through a series of smart contracts, Lido and Rocket Pool will automatically stake user assets and allow them to earn Ethereum network rewards and transaction fees in return for participating in this blockchain validation service. So here, Butter says this is marketing, and Val was just impressed that they spelled it right with a space between rocket and pool instead of all as one word. So yeah. And then, with the more serious stances, here Paul Grewal from Coinbase says our disputes with the SEC Gov are about as much more than just Coinbase, but about the entire industry and the 52 million Americans who own crypto. Thank you to John E. Deaton and Blockchain Association for their amicus briefs in support of Coinbase's pursuit of an interlocutory appeal to the Second Circuit. And then there's links to the briefs if you want to read them. So Consensus is coming after the SEC. Uniswap are going to go after the SEC. Coinbase are going after the SEC. This is a whole lot of that the SEC is opening themselves up for, especially considering that they can't even get XRP to be designated a security on the secondary market. So yeah. Anyway, with all that said, it turns out that the SEC has actually been looking at Ethereum since March 2023. Now, what's interesting here is David from Bankless last year at ETH Denver said that he'd started hearing snippets of information about Ethereum ecosystem protocols getting Wells notices, but then he kind of had to walk that back. He said that there wasn't any information and stuff. But now we're seeing here that the timelines kind of match up, that maybe there was stuff that was happening at the time. So yeah, this is really interesting to see that this has been going on for a year. However, it definitely makes you wonder, here talk about it on Fox News as well, Fox Business News. It makes you wonder some of the decisions that the SEC has taken and how they can kind of fit together with each other. Well, what I'm talking about here is what Adam mentions is, why would the SEC approve a spot futures ETF, which is or based on the CTFC, which is saying that the ETH is a commodity, when they were thinking that it's a security internally. Like, how did that work? So Adam here has this tweet thread. I'm not going to read all of it, but you can go and read it yourselves. It says some folks are confused as to why the SEC ETH is security timeline and the futures ETF is bad for the SEC. Here's a quick breakdown of why it paints Gary Gensler into a corner. This is futures, historically a commodity assets, and then he goes on to say, markets started to develop around futures based on securities. This led to some complexity between what should be administered by the SEC versus the CTFC. And then he kind of just goes and gives a full understanding of this. He says any futures ETFs would still have to follow these guidelines and have the ETF portion approved by the SEC, meaning at this time there was a disagreement between the CTFC, FTC, and the SEC as to the status of something. The SEC could shoot it down, but of course they didn't shoot down the Ethereum spot futures ETFs. He says that means that CFTCs views the futures a commodity since it is not registered as a SFP under the narrow-based index scope. It says that means the timeline is follows. February 21, CME launches ETH, the futures contracts. March of 23, SEC takes position as ETH may be security. October 23, SEC approves 9 ETH futures ETFs on an accelerated basis. It says to approve this asset, the SEC has to agree that futures are not an SFP, but under an accelerated approval, makes specific statement that the Commission reviewed the public interest and protection of investors in order to accelerate this. And then it says, so they cannot take the argument the CFTC snuck this past us, or disapproval of the futures is a separate issue, or it was just a rubber stamp because the SEC has expressed jurisdiction over narrow SFPs. To accelerate, they must review investor risk or on underlying assets in an ETF, and they internally claim to be reviewing ETH as security prior to the approval date. This means ETH is a commodity, guidance knows this and still goes after it for political gain, or the SEC is so poorly run that they accelerate an ETF for an unregistered SFP on unregulated security while investigating it. And it says Gensler can't have it both ways. Either the Ethereum is not a security, or he failed at protecting the American people. Accelerating the approval of an ETF, the SEC should have 2 different levels of approval over. That's why this matters. This was a really great thread by Adam that you should go and give it a read. For those people who are saying that ETH is security and the SEC has been investigating it, just to show that the SEC basically is incompetent. And then just the final bit of ETF news in the US. Here, Franklin Ethereum has got a ticker, and that is EZET, and that's added to the DTCC website when they're the ones who list the different ETFs that are available or that are upcoming. And this is the same thing that happened with the Bitcoin ETF, although reality is that it doesn't really matter too much, and that it's just a formality, even though it doesn't have any bearing on what's going to come next. So we can't really use this as an indication that the Ethereum spot ETF is going to be approved on May 23rd. Now, speaking of ETFs, here we've got a news from Marty Party talking about the Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs that are going to be launching in Hong Kong. I think they'll actually be launched right now at the time of recording, and the buzz out of Hong Kong is saying that it's going to have a larger first day than the US. They're going to have in-kind redemptions as subscriptions, so you'll be able to bring your Bitcoin and Ethereum and put it into the ETF, or withdraw it as Bitcoin and Ethereum instead of cash. And mainland Chinese investors are not allowed to invest, but Hong Kong issuers do not care if US SEC declares Ethereum a security. Like they've got their own measures of setting it up. So here there's a whole bunch of questions about how it's all going to work. But this is really interesting that they're kind of hyping it up as a bigger inflow day than the US Bitcoin ETFs launch, because they had some good amounts of dollars coming in. So that's going to be really interesting to see. However, Eric Balkunis here thinks that it's going to be small potatoes. He says, no, also this is the first time we'll get a clean look at how popular ETH is relative to BTC in ETF format. What percentage of the net flows do you think they will grab? I think 10% or less. James is more optimistic. Let's talk about James Safeheart. It's going to be interesting to see in tomorrow's episode. We should have some numbers on the first day, but I think it's going to take a couple of weeks before we get a better idea of what those ETF data are looking like. Okay, next we're going to be talking about this All Core Devs call that happened last week and that I didn't cover because I missed Friday's episode. So Tim Byko says I won't be able to share the full recap until a few hours from now, but here's a brief summary of the R&D Discord. It says DevNet 0 spec, so EIP 7685 and the BLS subgroup checks are both included in DevNet 0. Spec has been updated and has said that they're working on the implementation stuff. There's also some talk about account abstraction. They talked about it quite a lot during the call. More broadly, the process by which the community input should be taken into account for the discussion around it. Then they said Pectra EIP inclusions before including anything extra in Pectra. We'll continue working on implementing what's already in scope for DevNet 0. And then they had updates on the EIPs, briefly discussed the SSZ EIPs proposed by ETAN, and then had some governance stuff as well. So you can give the summary here on from Christine Kim as well. And then there's an information about the SEZ stable container if you want to read it. That's EIP 7495. That's available in the links. And then here's Tim Byko's threads on GitHub, where there's links of the information as well, including full meeting info and YouTube video as well, if you are interested in watching that. Now, and then we also got here an update from about the next steps in the purge, and here we had the SSZ as part of that as well. So this is something that you might start hearing about more in the next few weeks, but I'll definitely keep you all up to date on what is going on with that. Okay, something really funny happened last week where Stripe did an announcement of accepting crypto payments. For those of you who don't know, Stripe is a payment processing service, and a whole bunch of the biggest online marketplaces like Walmart, Amazon, and others use Stripe as their infrastructure for payments. Now, Mert here had this tweet sharing that it's about Solana, and Solana admittedly is one of the platforms that they're considering, but also they will be using Ethereum and Polygon as other payment rails. They will not be using Bitcoin, even though they did try it with Bitcoin 7 or 8 years ago. It didn't work very well, and then they removed it, but now it seems like they're trying again. They'll be accepting USDC payments using those 3 rails. I think it's only a matter of time before they add Base and maybe other Ethereum L2s. Of course, they're faster, cheaper, and pretty much just as reliable for small payments. So that's going to be really interesting to see how all that works out. But yeah, it was really funny because the Solana guys were really pushing that it was about Solana because that's what they mentioned in the video. But right away, you knew that it was going to be talking about Ethereum as well. So yeah. Okay, next we have this thread from XachXBT, and this is a 3-year investigation that they've done, and it's all about how Lazarus Group out of North Korea laundered $200 million from 25 crypto hacks and how it all worked out. So this was like a huge amount of detail that they went into, and like tracked addresses and accounts and all sorts of information. And I think it's pretty interesting to go and read that. So definitely check that out. But it looks like some of that money was going towards funding development in North Korea, which kind of scary. Okay, next we have this interesting piece of information out of Gnosis now, and they have given an investment of $1.5 million into hopr, and this is a way of providing fully private, uncensorable data exchange between peers to undertake the development of the fully decentralized Gnosis VPN. So the great thing about Gnosis here is that it's kind of become a testnet for Ethereum mainnet. They went through the Denkun hard fork before Ethereum mainnet did, and they've got a whole bunch of like overlapping systems where you can play around and test things out before you bring them to Ethereum. So if this is successful on Gnosis, you might be finding it on its way to Ethereum at some point in the next, little while, I guess, which is really exciting. Okay, we got some news out of Yuga Labs, and they're the people who made the Bored Apes Yacht Club NFTs, Mutant Apes, and Other Land, I think it's called, Other Side NFTs. A couple of years ago, they were huge. They were the biggest NFT project. However, they've suffered really badly during the bear market, and it looks like they might be one of the last big casualties of the previous bear market that we've just come through. Of course, tokens have pumped, but NFTs are still lagging behind, significantly behind the all-time highs. So here, Gaga.eth from Yuga Labs says it's a really tough day, and basically what they're doing is they're letting a whole lot of their developers go. They're firing them basically. So these guys have fallen behind punks, they've fallen behind Pudgy Penguins, they've fallen behind a whole bunch of other NFT communities, and it looks like it's really bad. So sorry to those guys if you're holding a Bored Ape. Good luck. Okay, so as always with crypto cycles, there's always news of crypto being banned somewhere. Well, here we got news that Russia will now be banning Bitcoin from September 1st. So Russia is the new China of this cycle. Like over the last couple of years, they've banned and unbanned Bitcoin a whole bunch of times. I think, they banned it because they were trying to protect the ruble. They unbanned it to try to evade sanctions, and now they are rebanning it because it's too successful at replacing the ruble. So they're trying to protect the ruble again. So it's only a matter of time before they ban it again. I think the situation is more likely that the state level will allow Bitcoin to be used, but at the retail level, they'll be restricting access to Bitcoin. I'm sure those people will still be able to find Bitcoin if they really want to. Okay, here Alex Thorne from a couple of days ago has an update of all the big news that was happening in crypto. So you can check this out from Alex and see the kind of stuff that he's been up to. But yeah, this is a nice little thread. I think Alex puts out every week. So I'll give that coverage for you all on Monday's episodes going forward. But we have information about DAG arrests on Samurai Wallet founders. FBI publishes warnings against using non-MSB crypto. Elizabeth Warren sends a letter regarding crypto. DAG files a opposition to Tornado Cash in their case. The Phoenix Wallet announces exit from the US. And a whole bunch of other news as well. So you can check this tweet out to get that information. Okay, now in some other news, away from crypto directly, away from Ethereum directly, basically, we have news of Philadelphia-based Republic First Bank was basically gone bust. And you all remember that last year we had Silvergate and what was the other one? Forgot its name. A couple of other banks went bust in the US, and we had Credit Suisse go bust in Switzerland as well. And there was a whole lot of fear that it was going to be the start of a new wave of collapsing banks, but that was able to be stopped. But now we've got a First Republic that's gone bust here, so it's going to be really interesting to keep an eye on this. I don't think it was that big a bank, so we'll see. The fact is, Andrew Fisher here says, higher for longer, more regional banks will go bust because they're locked into, bonds that are underwater, and they can't keep up with the higher rates that other banks that are putting money into money markets are giving basically to retail. So this looks like it's going to keep happening. It's going to be really interesting to see what the outcome of that is going to be. And of course, I'll let you all know if this develops into a bigger story. Okay, next we've got this tweet from Mert, and he says, need to and will improve the state of Solana validators. The top 10 shouldn't be mega corporations. Top validators shouldn't be run by validator service companies. This, in my opinion, is crazy. Delegation program should phase out slowly. We're going to get it done. He says if this isn't done by a reasonable time frame, we'll just have proven ETH Max is right. So there's this idea basically that the Solana validation is just bad right now. They think they want to fix it. It's going to be interesting to see if it's actually fixable. We had some more information about it here. So Emmanuel Awasika says, first Lido share is under 29%. A more important metric I'm concerned about is that Lido has made incredible moves to decentralize and reduce the impact of protocol on the beacon chain. So they've done their DVT module, and they're going to be doing the community staking module as well. And it looks like they're moving more and more towards getting a smaller share first of all, potentially, and then also moving towards adding more and more validators, which of course will make it more decentralized, which will be a good thing. It says, the manual says, that looks a lot of protocol alignment from where I stand, and it's not something you'll find in other ecosystems. I made the original tweet in response to Mert's post highlighting that Ethereum alignment and social decentralization aren't memes. Both are difficult to build, immensely useful, as we'll see when ecosystems find it difficult or impossible to align financial interests with the protocol's interests. And those are questions that are coming up with Ethereum as well, about how to change the issuance curve and all that kind of stuff to make it so you get decentralized takers online and a state capped at a certain level or soft capped at a certain level. And it's really difficult to balance those different ideas. And as you can see here, Lido dominance right now is at 28.67%, which is actually the lowest it's been in a year. And I'm hoping that keeps trending downwards because that's good for everyone involved. Hopefully it's just that rocket pool grows a little bit more in response to that, but we'll see how that goes. Okay, then in some rocket fuel news, here we have Wolfy, who who has been writing the daily recap of the rocket fuel episodes. And he's saying that seeing Anthony Sassano's announcement about taking a break has got Wolfy thinking that it's time to step back from the doing recap tweet threads after the upcoming 400th episode. So got to give a huge shout out to Wack for being an absolute legend with his support. Thank you for making me a monthly raffle winner for my contribution. Your work ethic and dedication to delivering consistent quality content is truly inspiring. Creating the recap threads has been an awesome way for me to stay in the loop with all things rocket fuel and Ethereum. Daily 15 to 20 minutes process of transcribing and editing with AI was manageable to fit into my routine and actually kind of fun. It's not goodbye though, I'll still be hanging around on Discord. I'm totally down to do a handover and share my workflow with anyone interested in taking over the recaps. It looks like someone has already stepped in to take over the recaps, which is really exciting. I just wanted to give a huge shout out to Wolfy for all the great work that he's done, I think over the last many months, and not missed an episode. So really good stuff, Wolfy. Thank you so much for everything, and you are definitely going to be missed. Okay, next we've got some technical analysis from Peteris. Peteris says the current market conditions indicate a robust bullish engulfment pattern at the support level, confirmed by a sharp increase in the relative strength index, which just rebounded from 30, signaling a strong oversold territory. Additionally, the moving average convergence divergence shows a bullish crossover beneath the zero line, which is a classic precursor to upward momentum. The Fibonacci retracement levels align perfectly at 61.9%, forming a golden pocket, which historically acts as a strong reversal zone. All these technical indicators collectively point to a significant decrease in bearish momentum, and an imminent stabilization or increase in price levels is highly probable. Also worth noting that the Bollinger Bands are beginning to narrow, suggesting a decrease in market volatility and potential end to downward price movements. Basically what happened is people were talking about the RPL ratio against ETH, and Peteris says, I spoke to an astrologist across that out TA specialist, and they said that the rocket is ready for takeoff. And it turned out he said to ChatGPT, give me some random technical analysis nonsense that the price is not going to go lower. so yeah, that was nice. And Peteris loves TA, so I thought I had to give that a shout out. Okay, and since this is my first episode of kind of stepping in for Anthony a little bit unofficially, I thought it was only fitting to give end the episode with a shout out to Anthony. So here he says, I have hundreds of one-piece figurines, big and small, but I finally got my first life-size one today. This bad boy is 2.4 meters, which is 7.9 feet tall, and there's Anthony for scale. So yeah, there's a giant figurine of a character from One Piece. So yeah, congrats on Anthony in living his best life away from the Daily Gwei. Huge shout out goes there, and yeah, I'm gonna end the episode here because it's gone really long. But thank you all for watching, listening, and being part of the Rocket Fuel community. I hope that you find my covering the Ethereum news useful while Anthony's away. Yeah, I'll be back tomorrow. Bye.